welcome into this video. I would like to take you through the electronic rental income tax system, which is the solution which has been developed by KRA, or the Kenya Revenue Authority, to assist the landowners and property managers to file for their monthly rental income tax return, and also in the registration of their property, so that they can make their compliance work easier. So basically, the person who is required by the law to register for MRI is a landlord or a property manager who is able to make a gross turnover of 288,000 annually to 15 million annually from the rental property, which technically translates to 24,000 per month, originating from the rental property or the rental units. So basically, the 7.5% of that gross turnover without deducting any expense is a final tax, which means that the landlord or the property manager is not required by the law to declare this income when filing their annual tax return, because the 7.5% it is a final tax or is a qualifying tax. Basically, based on that scenario, I would like to take you through an overview of the electronic rental income tax system. Basically, what you need to know in this system is that you can be able to register up a new property and also file the returns from this solution. Basically, I would like us to first register a new property and see how it takes place. So first thing first, you just need to come to here we have register new property. Then you need to enter the name of the property. Then you need to enter the RAD number, and then you need to validate. So when we validate, in case the property is visible or the land registration is accurate, I'm just using hypothetical figure here, it shall be validated. But you just need to come here in case it is not validated. Also, you need to put the location of your property. So in my scenario, I am in Kiambu. Then you need to select the sub-county, so it is Gatundu South. Then you need to select the ward, so I can choose Kigajo ward. Then you need to enter some sub-descriptive address here. And then you need to deal back. You need to choose the number of buildings which you have. So in my scenario, I can choose I have the number of building is 1. Then you need to click next. Then you need to come here and populate some details. You need to enter the building name. Then you need to enter your building name, the building use. So it can either be residential, commercial, or mixed use. I can use residential. Then you can come here and choose the number of floors. Maybe it can be 1 floor only ground, or it is not having an upward trajectory. So then you can choose the number of units. I can just select, in case I have 5 units. Then you need to come here and enter some details here. You can enter the house name. Maybe it is A1. You can enter the number, the floor number. Floor number, we can say it is 0. You can enter the rent amount. So the rent amount, I can say maybe it is 12,000. Then you need to enter the print area. I can say it is 7 square meter. Then you need to scroll. You need to scroll and come to where we have the room number. I can say the room number is 1 bedroom. So we have different room numbers. We have 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom, 4 bedroom, 5 bedroom, single, bed-sitter, and others. So then you need to enter another details here. No other details you need to enter. So in case you have, I know a lot of radios have bulk number of units, maybe 70 to 1,000 units. You can basically upload a bulk upload of this. You can just create an Excel sheet and come here and maybe download this Excel skeleton from here, which is compliant with this one, MRI template. Then you need to populate all these details here. You populate them here as they are, as you can see, and come and upload them here, because you'll be doing bulk upload. Because doing it one by one, it can take you a lot of time in case you have 1,000 units. So to save time, that is what you're supposed to do. Basically, that is how you register a new property. Then you're supposed to come here, click next, and after clicking next, so I can just reduce the number of units as 1, so that I show you how you submit the details. So you can come here and enter again A1, number of floors. We can say it is 0. Then you can come here, rent payable. Maybe we can take a value of 24,500 so that we can reach the step threshold of 44,000 per month. we can choose the print area as 7 square meters. Then we can come here and choose the room is a bed sitter, maybe a worker, maybe based on the amount of rent which you are paying here. So, and then you can come here, click next. Then after clicking next, you can come here and submit, or not submit because this is just a hypothetical value. From there, you need to know something else regarding this. You can be able also to change details of an already registered property. So maybe you have registered a property and maybe you have done an upward review of your rent, because technically when you register a property, you need to know that you cannot be able to do a downward adjustment of rent that is reducing the rent amount, but I'll show you what I mean. So we can get where I have already a registered property. So we can come where we have registered. Then at the action, I'll choose to view. Then from that point of view, you need to amend some details from this property. So I'll just say change property and add details. So after from this, you can be able to do some adjustment regarding this property. Maybe you can change the name of the property to maybe Kin1 property. Then I need to you cannot be able to change the building use without intervention of the revenue man. You can change the number of floors. You can change the number of units from this section. You can also be able to review the rent payable upward, but downward is not allowable. Maybe you can review this rent to 32,000 maybe, or 33,000. That's the accept. You accept that one. Then you can choose, you can add some unit from here. You can be able to add some additional unit, and after that you can save the changes. So that is how you usually do it. Then the other thing which you need to know and which is very important is how you usually file the returns for a rental property. So to file return, you need to come to where you have file return when filing your MRI. So you can choose either to file nil return in case sometimes you get into some period when your tenant, sometimes you have a renovation, sometimes your tenant decide to do the thing. So you need to say nil return. Then the types of the tax is original. So the return is for April 2026 because it should be filed every month. Then you need to enter the reason. Why are you filing reason for nil return? Maybe you can say renovation. Maybe I can put it as a renovation in case you are doing renovation of the property. Then after doing that, you can come here. You can see the please note late filing of MRI attract this amount or 5% of the tax due. The late payment penalty is 5 of the tax due, and the latest interest is the 1% per month or part of the month. So I can click next. And you can see I'm paying 0 tax because I'm filing now returns because there was a repair in my property. Then I can click next, so I can acknowledge and submit. So basically, that is how possibly due to So basically, that is how we usually file for now return when it comes to rental income and filing of MRI in case we had some renovation and so on and so forth. But what I have described is that this 7.5%, it is a final tax. From there, you can be able to see the payment details. You can also be able to appoint a property manager from this section. You can come here and appoint property manager who will be managing your property. You can also manage the past property managers, where you can be able to see the appointment date, KRA PIN, manager's name, and the date withdrawn action. So you can also be able to manage requests which have been made. So pending requests, completed requests, and requests which you have declined for. So a record of appointment request with property manager. So this is what we technically need to basically know when it comes to electronic rental income tax system. So this is the whole knowledge about it, and this is the option which you constantly use. So in case you have any query regarding rental income tax or any matter regarding